no one should have to choose between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters through the Purple Leash Project, so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
It's Tuesday, the 7th of October. And if we've learned anything this week, it's that the Springbok coaching staff can let loose. Let's start the show.
This is A Bit of an Animal.
Welcome back, everybody. This is A Bit of an Animal, the South African Rugby Union podcast here on the Global Gain Lines. I'm pleased to see that we've got the whole bomb squad with me this evening. Temikosi, Lisa B, and Jean. Good evening to everybody. All right, let's get down to topic number one of this evening. South Africa defeat Argentina at Twickenham in England to secure the Rugby Championship. Close game. Lisa B, were you on the edge of your seat as much as we were?
Wow, watching it live, I felt for sure we were going to lose, especially in that first half. I was actually watching it with some other people, and we all went very quiet after a while. And then, of course, also punctuated by some shouting. But what I think it's what we have to kind of also realize is how, if we compare and contrast with Durban, and how those small little things that just came off in Durban didn't in London. And what was interesting for me in that is how we invested our energy in the scrums and obviously completely demolished Argentina, which was really great, but we still didn't necessarily get the payoff from that. And of course, a lot has to do with Argentina really showing up and being brilliant under the high ball and not fading away. And so credit to them. We have talked a little bit about how, that first Bledisloe game, if it had been played in Australia, the question is, would they have won? I also have a question whether if this game had been in Argentina, if Argentina would have won. I think it's possible, although in the second half, you did kind of have a feeling that it was inevitable that we would pull it through. Not a pretty win, but a win nonetheless, historic, and I'm just really, really happy about this. I think it shows a certain kind of graft too about the team, and it's almost like I have the feeling like all through this year, really, we've seen all the different ingredients to what we might see in 2027, but we just haven't seen it all put together, coherently yet. But I do feel better now than I felt at the beginning of the TRC, and just super happy that we did pull it through.
Awesome. Temikosi, first of all, welcome back. Secondly, tough first half, better second half, and we pulled off the victory at the end. Your thoughts?
To be honest, when I watched the match, even when the first half was going, mostly because of the scrum, I did not think we were going to lose the game. At no point did I think that we were going to lose the game. Argentina really brought their game. Like Kremer was taking names. Carreras was also kicking for goals, and Choco Barros was also playing really well. So I never really thought that we were going to lose the match, but definitely Argentina improved from Durban. I think mostly they reacted to last week's game, and they made sure that they brought their A game now. So throughout that whole match, yes, at the end it was a bit tense. Because I think even if the stats wise, we didn't concede a lot of penalties during the first half or like the first 60 minutes of the game. But the last 20 minutes, I don't know what was going on with us. Like everything seemed like it was crumbling and Argentina was really fighting back. But besides that, I thought it was like a show in. And yeah, it's nice to go. And it's funny enough, this is the first time we go back to back in the TRC. Like since like this tournament ever started, we've never actually won it twice in a row. That says a lot.
And I think that record extends to the Tri Nations as well, which was the precursor to this
Yeah.
tournament. Jean, your takeaways from this historic victory?
Um, yeah, a lot to unpack. But I'm not gonna deep dive everything. Echo Lisa's sentiments. We were really dominant in the scrum at times. And possibly my favorite scrum moment now. Still narrowly losing out to Damian Willemse. Is the box deciding to send Reinach to the back line and just completely demolish an eight-man scrum with seven, and Pieter Steph Totoy doing his best Grant Williams impression. That was definitely a favorite for me. But I think there's been a decision made or a communication sent or something in regards to match officials where we are saying that or they said that we're not going to be that quick to give a scrum penalty. We'd rather give you scrum advantage. If I look at the amount of times that we've been dominant in terms of getting the shove, in dominant in terms of sending them backwards and not getting a penalty, but just getting an advantage, it sort of sticks out that there has to be something there. And then the thing that for me was inspired or inspiring by the Argentinian coach was he brought up a lot of young guys who only had 2 to 5 test caps. And he let a lot of the guys who'd been working really hard have a bit of a breather. So he kept it like a core spine of the team, but he brought in some young blood. And I think that made the massive difference. If you look at the game, the second Bledisloe match, which Australia lost, you could sort of tell that those guys by minute 60, the Australians were truly running on empty. Because a lot of their key players, McWright, Valentini, Wilson, had been playing 80 minutes week in, week out, week in, week out, because the drop off from first choice to second choice is just too steep to consider right now. So yeah, I think that was inspired, and it really gave them a bit of fight back. Like they lost the battle up front, but their back line with the young blood in it and Carreras at 15 really kept them in the fight. Taking the points on offer, um, I think this was if this match had been played last week and we swapped the two results, a lot of people would have had some bold spots, um, you know, sitting watching the first half. But yeah, excellent game in general. And then the last thing I wanted to say is I'm absolutely here for the rise of Kobus Reinach, who is, as he's getting more and more game time, he is just hitting prime stride. He is settling in. His box kicking is good. His sniping is good. His passing is fantastic. Really, really happy with the performances. If there's one thing I can say, it's that I would love for him to learn to read the game defensively like Faf did. Faf is still hands down the best defensive nine you're going to find out there, but absolutely deserve it from Kobus Reinach to get the man of the match. It's been coming for a while, and he's been really reliable for us.
Yeah, the development of Kobus Reinach is very interesting. His dad, obviously a Springbok as well, and a accomplished athlete. He was inconsistent and erratic at the Sharks. He left for overseas and played for one or two clubs and matured. We'll bring up his Wikipedia a bit later to see like how old he is and that type of thing. But going into the second half of a World Cup cycle, you want guys like him in it. People are saying, "Oh, someone told me earlier in the week, oh, is Faf out now?" It's like no, nobody's out. the reality is that this coaching staff is so intelligent and they're so forward thinking and they're so willing to take risks. And they've got the credit in the bank to take risks, but even when they didn't have the credit in the bank and they took over from Alistair Coetzee and his coaching staff, they were taking risks in terms of picking players, maybe trying to pick combinations from teams. So they were trying structures. But when you work under Rassie Erasmus, um, there's this desire to not sit still. So the fact is that they brought Kobus Reinach back into the system. He had been in and out with numerous coaches, and he's matured along with the team. So the reality is that you need to have a reasonable degree of depth, because a guy like Reinach can be in great form, and Grant Williams is awesome off the bench, that type of thing. Faf sort of in the background. On this tour in England, they had four scrum halves in the team, and only two of them played because you do need backup. Someone might say, "Oh, why don't you just take three with the backup for the other one?" Because Lions player Morne van der Berg was there as well as Fafi. They were in the team. They didn't get any game time, but they sort of there as backup. But injuries happen. You can't go into a World Cup cycle thinking like Corbus is definitely going to be there. But it's incredibly encouraging to see players mature even at the latter stage of their career, because the reality is people think that only props peak at 33, but if you're a backline player, you can also, if you look after yourself, like Jesse Krill, so on and so forth. Yeah, very, very happy to get a back-to-back result. We'll quickly look at the Australia New Zealand result, and we'll turn to our resident New Zealand correspondent, Teminkosi. Teminkosi, your secret second team defeats Australia back to back. You must be pleased.
I was actually even impressed with the center combination between Barrett and Kuntopai. Who was this? Bill Proctor was never really, well, he wasn't bad, but it didn't really click the way Kuntopai and Barrett did this weekend. And that was good to see. But also on the other hand, I think Australia probably could have played better, but considering how they didn't have their first choice 9, they didn't have their first choice 10. Some of their players had to move, like Jorgensen had to move to like 15. I think combining all of those things together, that's probably what gave New Zealand more of an edge, because they are more settled in. They're like a more settled team. So I think that kind of helped them. But the way the match started, it looked like Australia was actually kind of putting up a fight. It's just that as it went on, New Zealand just kind of took over momentum and Australia could never get back.
John, your thoughts on New Zealand defeating Australia in Australia?
Yeah, I certainly I hoped for a bit more of a fight back. And you could see the heart was in it from Australia. They were really giving it their all, and it would have been nice to have James Slipper go off on a win, having played 151 test matches for his country. But yeah, as I said, I think a lot of the guys were just at this point they were fatigued. And I wonder if Joe Schmidt is not gonna let a lot of these guys just rest during the November tour. Take the less experienced guys on a tour of the North, sightseeing, playing some nations, and even if they don't come away with wins, you're getting that experience ready, and then you've got it next year to sort of he can pull a Rassie and start mixing and matching combinations, build a bench, build a bomb squad, because I can only imagine what a bench of Wilson, McWright, and Valentini would do to opponents in the second half. It would be like having three Malcolm Marxes running onto the field. So yeah, we'll see where it goes, but I definitely felt that the fatigue of the season came into play for Australia, and as much as they were a force to be reckoned with in the initial rounds, due to having played the Lions, the fact that they played the Lions now came into play, and a lot of the guys were simply depleted. You can only push so far into the red every week before it starts catching up with you. Definitely, as Tembe Nkosi said, Quinn Tupaia and Barrett in the midfield being deadly. But also Will Jordan being given a bit more license to come into the line on attack. And then that number nine of theirs,
Cam Roigard.
Roigard.
So
man,
good. Oh my God.
deadly, 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 deadly.
For me, he's like, we're not entirely sure who our first choice nine is, depending on the game plan, the opponent, the conditions, fitness, everything. But Cam Roigard for me is like, it's Cam Roigard and everybody else.
Yeah,
Mm.
he makes his presence alone makes New Zealand look like New Zealand of old. Just his presence. The difference between him being there and him not being there is the difference between the most dominant rugby team in history and the current New Zealand rugby team. So yeah, definitely he's miles ahead of everyone else in their setup.
Lisa B, I'm just looking
Yeah,
at the team here. I just want to make sure your friend Max Jorgensen was playing. Did you enjoy watching him?
I did, and I was so sorry that like everyone has said, they just got tired, and you can understand it, and it's sad, but I also think thinking back to before the Lions series and how everyone was convinced that the Lions would, roll them, and um how even at the beginning of the TRC, people really didn't believe in them. So it was I really have enjoyed this. It's weird to me because I'm not an Australia fan, so it's weird for me to actually like one of their players, but I think he was wonderful. And yes, absolutely. Roigard, he just makes that whole backline look so much better. And so I know, the New Zealanders are still, as we do too, picking out the things that they aren't happy with. But definitely yeah, New Zealand have come back, and I don't think that you can be too critical of this team. They definitely do have some work-ons, but yeah, I was very impressed with them coming back in the end. And exactly like Sean was saying, we all know that last 20-minute New Zealand team that just kills you, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, credit to Australia. They did look tired. They had a long season thus far. They're going to get a bit of a break now, like a proper break. Our players might sort of be shuffling in and out of URC, but Super Rugby only starts next year, so Australian players need a break. New Zealand have a slightly bigger pool to pull from, so their players can also do with a bit of break, but they didn't look as depleted as Australia. Like Australia looked mentally and physically depleted. It's also worth noting that this Joe Schmidt will be departing now. He had initially said that he was going to leave after the Lions tour, but they asked him to, or at least he felt he wanted to stay on for the Rugby Championship. So it'll be new coaching staff, Laurie Fisher and them, and I think they'll have a refreshed team to pick in the Southern Hemisphere when the Southern Hemisphere teams tour the Northern Hemisphere in November, which for me actually is the funnest time of the year because I like to see the Northern Hemisphere teams host the Southern Hemisphere teams, and the Southern Hemisphere teams there's a bit more jeopardy to it. Like South Africa always going to be, to a degree, depending on our opponent, like slight favorites, but then at times will also be slight underdogs and that type of thing. And it's fun to see South Africa take on a very competitive England team, an extremely competitive and technically good and tons of depth French team. I love it when we play Ireland, and Ireland, it's just like we could lose, so then it's like it's a must watch game. Just like this past week at Twickenham versus Argentina. I would have liked us to win definitely, but there are no guarantees. So we move on from the Rugby Championship to look at the South African schedule thus far this year. So we defeated Italy, we defeated Italy again, defeated Georgia, rotated the team quite a bit. Then we moved into the Rugby Championship and lost to Australia, beat Australia. There's going to be a theme here. Lost to New Zealand, beat New Zealand. And then thankfully we ended the Rugby Championship with 2 straight victories against Argentina. Just a quick look forward to the November tour. We do also play Japan at Wembley Stadium. Pack that place. Big stadium, but I'm sure we can fill it up. Then we take on France in France. Should be great. Wonder which stadium? Stade de France. Oh, great.
Mhm. World
That should
Cup
be
final rematch.
fantastic.
Le Vengeance.
Then we go to sunny and beautiful Italy. Take on Italy. Hopefully we rotate the team slightly. And then, as I mentioned before, uh, Ireland in Ireland at the
It's gonna
Aviva.
be Sheffield.
And then we in the tour against Wales. So 5 games in a row. Who am I going to go to first? Tembinkosi, how are you feeling about looking ahead to this tour of the Northern Hemisphere?
I'm thinking we should be aiming for another a clean sweep. Isn't the island game gonna be in Chicago? I thought that they moved it to the USA for whatever
Uh,
reason. All right,
That's
no,
so
the New
it can't
Zealand
be in the
game.
middle of the tour. Yeah, it's
That's the New Zealand game. It's Ireland's
that's
first
the
game.
New Zealand game. Yes, yes, yes,
just to be clear, that's Ireland versus New Zealand. Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I'm thinking here the toughest game is going to be the ones, especially like I like how they put it there. The ones on the one side are going to be like the toughest 2 games. Um, that's probably where we're going to see, can we say our A team or our best available team? And I'm thinking we're going to rotate Italy, we're going to rotate Japan. No disrespect to Wales, producer Lee, sorry, but yeah, we're probably gonna also rotate much on that match. But I'm looking for it. I'm considering that the biggest match so far was the New Zealand versus South Africa in Eden Park. I think these two, Ireland and France, are gonna be like massive, massive because France kind of have to prove a point since they don't send their A team during like the summer. Is it our winter holiday? Yeah, during the winter holiday. So they are probably gunning for this game. And considering also the World Cup qualification pool seedings, that those 2 matches are going to be really important. Well, we're going to win the World Cup either way, but it will be nice to know which group we're in.
Yeah, you make a good point there. So what France do is at the beginning of the year in the Six Nations, they play their best possible players. In the middle of the year, so around June, their summer, our winter, then they rotate a little. And quite frankly, they get criticism from it but I think it's undue criticism. I think you need to give young players a chance. And in the pre-pod discussion, we were talking about a South African A team playing more games. So yeah, I have no qualms with France doing that. And then at the end of the season, when they again host Southern Hemisphere teams, then they play once again their best possible players. Um, Jean, your thoughts on the tour up north?
Um, yeah, it's actually kind of a spectacle tour considering we're playing Japan, um, revisiting the disaster of Brighton. Which I know a lot of people think that, oh, it's such an embarrassing moment, but I feel like we were just the first really big name to fall to Japan. And it's only a matter of time before all the ducks line up and New Zealand falls to Japan. In which case, a tiny island in in the Southern Ocean will just randomly submerge to the bottom. France will be the Le Vengeance. It will be their chance to get vengeance for everything that's happened. And then both Italy and Ireland are technically deciding matches. Well, Italy is not technically a decider. I think there we might actually see, contrary to, I'm not going to align with Tempi and Corsi. I think we're going to see the young guns for most of the matches. In Italy, we might see some of the old guard come out to get match time. But I think Rassi wants to see if guys like, well, we know Lebok can play France and Ireland. He's played them before, and we were close. Well, we beat. He's won one, lost one against France. Ireland, he's lost one. So it would be interesting to see who gets to play there. But it's really unnecessary for us to go and bully Wales at the end of this thing. We could have just gone over and bullied England, who I feel everyone would have appreciated.
Yeah, I would have preferred we played England as well. Um, yeah, interesting five game tour. It's like a yeah, you don't want to
Unfor-
underestimate the opposition, but yeah, some games are a little more challenging than others, but we'll see how they actually rotate the players. Um, Lisa B, we decided beginning of the this podcast that for the Japanese game, I would pay for the tickets, you would pay for the flights.
No problem. I just need your guys' passports. Let me know. Um, no, it would be great to go. It's interesting. I would love to see how, well, I'm trying to think now, how many guys are still playing that actually lost in that Brighton game? And will they be part of the team? Um, that's something that I'm going to look up right after this pod. Um, so it's great. Like Jean said, I still haven't rewatched that game ever. I don't think I ever will. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it was an amazing moment in rugby, and I do love the Japanese. I love the Japanese women's team as well. They're excellent. So that's going to be a great match. For me, yes, the France match has to be up there. It's a pity, like before at the beginning of the year, the Eden Park game was obviously the big one. We didn't quite put it through there, so I would really like to see us playing winning there. I don't think DuPont is going to be back yet though, and I do think they have some other big players out. But as you guys were saying, they took their B team to New Zealand and they didn't do badly there. So at home, they're definitely going to have that advantage, whoever they play. So yeah, going to be a good game, and Ireland's always fun. Like I know there's been a lot of back and forth, and Irish fans and South African fans I think are very similar in the good ways and the bad ways. But I love seeing us, and I really want to see if Ireland can. I kind of feel like they've lost a little bit of momentum, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can come back into it. Yeah.
I think
Interesting to
for
see that we're playing Italy at the Juventus Football Club's home stadium. Very beautiful stadium. We again don't mention the sponsor because they didn't pay us. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I agree with Lisa in the sense that for both France and Ireland, it does feel like a bit of a statement game. Not necessarily the win, but how the game goes and how it flows will have a lot to say. And I think next year's Six Nations will also be interesting to see, how are they progressing in terms of continuing on from the last World Cup. Ireland obviously still struggling to fill the 10 shirt. France just really losing its spark. And I mean, they massive kudos to Willemse for retiring. So he's a South African who got the ability to play for France. And he retired due to concussions. But there's a lot of players there, they've been hanging on now since 2019. Those years are getting long now. Will they be able to keep going? I know the French are not scared of throwing a public bonfire party. So you have to wonder if this tour doesn't go well, will Mr. Gogglesman receive a public bonfire party?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There are lots of discussions on numerous message boards about the depth of France's playing stock, but how best to rotate them into the team. Of course, I was in George the other day, and I did bump into Heyneker Meyer, and he did ask that we stop mentioning the loss to Japan in Brighton.
Yeah, we won't mention the loss to Japan in Brighton ever again.
No, no, not the loss to Japan in Brighton.
But we
Moving
never
on
do.
before,
Wait, while we yeah,
yeah,
most
yeah,
of
go.
most of Ireland's team is the one that was in the Lions, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that will translate to this game?
And they also need to do some succession planning, to be honest. Crowley's looking really good. But yeah, they've got some cushions as well. So it might help them, it might hinder them. We'll have to see how many of those players actually fit, because a bunch of them are going to play against the Sharks this weekend and completely school the Sharks. The Sharks better put their button up their uniform and pack a lunch, because Leinster about to take them to school. Speaking of which, before we move on to the United Rugby Championship, we're going to give a shout out to our viewers, everybody who's liked and subscribed and watch the podcast. The podcast is doing really, really good numbers. As well as the people who got into the comments, Enrico and Master of the Toxic Arts. I think I pronounced that correctly. Yeah, thanks guys for getting into the comments. As well, Seamus McGuigan. Seamus McGuigan was our first ever commentator, and he gave us some encouragement. So shout out to Seamus. All right, we move on swiftly. Like, subscribe, click the notification bell. We move on swiftly to the United Rugby Championship. We're reviewing round 2, and it's deja vu. Same time, same place, same result. Lisa B, your team wins another game Friday night at Cape Town Stadium. You must really enjoy your weekends.
I do. I really do, especially when we can harness the magic of the mountain and pull off the crazy, crazy stuff that we do. I heard Hugh, by the way, on the URC Rewind saying that he doesn't quite understand the Stormers and we don't have a game plan. Yes, Hugh, game plan is optional. Magic is compulsory. When you're playing for the Stormers, just get used to it. It's how we roll. Unfortunately, we cannot pack Table Mountain into an airplane and take it overseas. So we will see how we do on our tour there. But for this game, I was very happy. Happy in that what the big difference for me for both of these games, actually, home games, compared to how we played last year, last year we often faded away if the stuff didn't come off. Yes, we can talk about the non-existing game plan, but the fact of the matter is we have some amazingly talented players, and when they can stick together and when they can kind of stick out for the game or keep the game going, they really do amazing things. I'm not going to go, you have it on there. That try to me just says it all. The cohesion, the brilliant lines, and just, Similani and Nell and I'm trying to remember his name. You guys know I'm terrible with names. Sinatla, thank you.
Yeah.
All three of them working so beautifully together. So wonderful. I also loved our mall. I think is much improved from last season, comparing it. And I think there's a lot of room to grow. I was incredibly sad when Nietling broke his arm. He's one of my favorite players, and I'm going to miss him a lot. And also, of course, in my back of my mind, I am worried about our scrum. I've talked about this before, our young props coming in, and not having Nietling there, I think, is going to hamper us, but it's also an opportunity for the young guys to actually stand up. So I hope they do, well, not in the scrum, but you guys know what I mean. So yeah, very happy. Great start to the season. We will see how it goes in Europe, because it's going to be a long and cold and dark tour.
Yeah, interesting game. So yeah, your concerns about the front line are valid, considering Vershey got injured. But yeah, they had the young props last week, and then this week they had the more senior props on the bench, and they really came to the party. Any thoughts on this game? Thembinkosi, were able to watch South African victory?
Yeah, I think they played really well. Like you guys said, especially the whole Stormers does not have a game plan and it's just razzle dazzle. Even that Evan Royce and Mathieu try, the one where it was a correct, that was luck. But sure, we will
Hey, you make your own luck here. You gotta kick the ball. So
No,
yeah.
no. It was just that bounce. That bounce was just like it worked out. I'm just gonna let it just cause it worked out. Then yeah, you guys have like some sort of special magic that you guys do, but that was like 2 centimeters away from being what was that?
John, any thoughts on Stormers getting another victory?
Yeah, once again, Dobson's thought of if we don't have a plan, they can't disrupt the plan, comes off. No, look, obviously, I think the Stormers are, when it comes to ball handling skills, probably one of the best teams in SA. They certainly have the flair and flow down. But yeah, just reiterating what Lisa B said is that um, is it's really a big loss for them to lose Neatling Fushia. He's a very steadfast person in the scrum for them. But they've got some old dogs there. Hopefully they can make the young guns wise.
Yeah. Look, you brought up a good point in the URC rewind of like the defensive structures not necessarily being there, and we've seen that with the Bulls as well. Early days, different circumstances because obviously Dobson's been there in a while. Having watched a lot of Dobson's preseason press conferences, they were saying, but their idea this season, and maybe it's coming on from previous seasons, is to evolve both the defensive and offensive game plan. Because if you do too much of the same thing too often, the opposition has too much footage of you, and then they can sort of plan for it. So, yeah, it's good that the Stormers, in a sense, as well as the Bulls, had a slightly better, let's say, less challenging start to the season, and they're making the most of it. Because the reality is that when you do have a less challenging start to the season, comparative to the Sharks and Lions who had to tour, and Stormers not losing that many, although the players that they lost to the Springbok team are very good, but not losing as many. Lions only losing one player. You need to make the most of it because these opportunities don't come across the whole season. Yes, it's a URC season, and unlike Super Rugby, it's a marathon, not a sprint, but it's interchanged with lots of breaks, lots of EPCR tournaments, yeah, teams losing momentum, so on and so forth, and the long break in the Six Nations when the South African teams don't play, where we can sort of fit in a game or two that might have been disrupted for whatever reason. Say it clashes with a Currie Cup final. So yeah, Stormers make these mistakes now, but very promising start. They go. Oh, we're going to look at the next fixtures later in the episode. But yeah, they're going on to a challenging tour next, so they had to maximize what they could at home. And again, Stormers, biggest crowd of the URC of the week once more. Last week was 13,500. This week was 13,663. So they got 163 more people paying people into the stadium. So great atmosphere. Yes, it doesn't always look as atmospheric on TV, but having been to the Connacht game, even if it's not completely full, it's still a great hiss. All right, we move swiftly on to the next South African team who played this week. And unfortunately, it's the Sharks. We didn't lose, but we didn't win either. Crazy conditions. Our game did not get postponed, unlike the two other games in this URC, probably because they thought the conditions weren't going to be this bad, and they were concerned that how are the Sharks going to fit in another away game. So we went ahead with the game. We dominated the scrum. We were better than them in the lineout, even though the lineouts were a complete gamble because of the wind change. Dragons, much better team than last season. Last year we started almost an identical tour. We lost to Connacht at Galway. Then we played the Dragons and we actually beat the Dragons. This year it's a regression because we didn't beat the Dragons. We lost to them. Sorry, we didn't lose. We drew. So I guess next season we're going to lose. Hopefully we don't start the season with a tour. I pray for that. Dragons look better. We look slightly better than last week. I would have preferred a win. Lorenzo Julius cleared a guy off the ball late in the game, and that looked like our ruck was going to go over. So that was disappointing. Overall, you take what you can from this tour, considering all the injuries and the 9 players in the Springbok setup. We are getting 5 players, 2 players back. Ethan Luke Makazola Mampimpi will be back with us this week and probably starting. Some of the other Springbok players have not been pulled into the Sharks squad. However, we did get some of the players who were still in Durban rehabbing. So I'm very glad to see that Siamasuku's in the squad. Um, yeah, next week's not going to go well for us though. We're playing Leinster, so take the points where you can. It's the tour from hell. We got 2 points for a draw. I would have taken 2 points in a loss, like 2 bonus points. But at least the opposition didn't get the points. Do you really want to deny the Dragons the points? You want to deny when you play Glasgow and Munster and so on and so forth? Like last year when we gave Munster and Glasgow some bonus points right at the end because we couldn't defend in Durban. I was pissed because you don't want to give those teams bonus points late. All right, Demikosi, we're both on tour and it's not going well. Your thoughts?
I was hoping you're not gonna go into me, well, especially because I was about to talk trash, but then I remembered, yeah, it didn't go so well for me, so I can't really complain. But I think the beer for the Dragons was playing really well. It kept you guys on your game. To be honest, I expect better from the Sharks. Uh, yes, you didn't lose, but I expected much better. Uh, like on paper, I think we've been saying this for the past 2 seasons. On paper, you guys should be doing way, way much better than this. But yeah, I think you guys just don't throw well.
Last season, what happened was is we lost to Connacht and we didn't get a bonus point. Then we beat Dragons and then we lost quite convincingly to Benetton. But even in those losses, I think at one of those games we did get a bonus point. So we started the season off with a three week tour and we didn't do so well. But there's always for South African teams there's a later tour as well, and we did really really well in the later tour. I think I'll have to go double check, but we definitely beat Ulster when we weren't supposed to beat Ulster and we pulled off another sort of last minute victory. So we rode our luck. We don't tour well at the start, especially when we're missing so many Springboks, and it doesn't then help missing 9 players to the Springbok squad, and then all those players who are very good, like Jordan Hendricks and Siama Suku, being injured, and then not being in the squad either, because those are the guys you turn to when there are injuries to your quote unquote frontline players. I will say though that not only myself, but many were critical of the pack of the Sharks last week, and they Rowan Dreyer, Matanzima, who just came over from the Bulls. Faison Bata is always considered a strong scrummaging hooker, and he did quite well in the lineout as well. It's not just Mervyn Orie doing the lineout; somebody has to throw the ball to Mervyn Orie. Dion Slabbert had a sort of quiet game again, but for the Sharks to actually scrum really well on an artificial pitch. Oh no, it's a grass pitch, my bad. In Wales in those conditions is I wonder if it had been a 4G pitch, would we have struggled? Just the wind conditions made it so that we couldn't like kick for poles that much because it's a massive gamble. So yeah, unideal tour, good players, but hey, shout out to Jean Smith for his first ever start at the URC level. He looked solid. I've seen some criticism of Kirsty Grobler. I thought he had a solid game. Lucanio showed his class at inside center, didn't get the ball that much. Shout out to PK Sobatle. His first start in the URC. I was glad that he started on the wing and they shifted Edel van der Merwe to fullback. But yeah, PK didn't necessarily get the ball that much, but he was very solid on defense. But it was the conditions. Yeah, shout out to the Dragons fly off De Beer. Tinus, Bulls. He's played for the Bulls. Came through their system. Everybody seemingly came through the Bulls system. Bulls. Then he went to the Griquas and Pumas, and he was at a different Welsh team, and now he's at this one. And he's playing really well. Edwin van der Merwe had a bit of a quiet game because he was starting at fullback. Eddie Swart, solid off the bench again. debut for the Sharks in Cameron Dawson, Lucid prop. We're loaning him from the Cheetahs, so shout out to the Cheetahs. And obviously, we got to give a shout out to Rikwas Currie Cup winning captain Sebo Kalamini, another uh, Bulls Academy product. He was solid off the bench. Nick Hatton had like a moment off there. Rosberg didn't come off the bench at all. And then I believe Pato Klakani didn't come off the bench at all either. So yeah, Sharks making the most of an unideal situation. On to happier times with the Bulls hosting another team at home. If I can find it. Slightly better team than last week. Back and forth game, Jean, but you pulled off the victory. Happy with the result?
I'm as happy as you could be. I think we defensively let them in just a tad too much for me to be comfortable. And yeah, again, we're prioritizing staying connected instead of killing the space and shutting down the movement. But very happy with the game and the performance. The Bulls really do seem to be favoring that late sweeping attack that we as the Springboks have used, and Willie Leroux is especially really good at it. His try that made the highlight reels really shows, that last minute joining from the opposite side of the field, just swinging in and being able to hit the gap at pace. Um, I really think their attack has gone up a notch, incredibly well so. But yeah, I think there's some work to do on defense. I was happy with the performance of Keegan Johannes. He was happy to, to send the ball down the line, and the hand skills do look better. But then at times also, when Leinster started showing that trademark pressure defense, from he who shall not be named due to being a traitor. Um, he was happy to go to the kick pass, and it came off really, really well for Stravino Jacobs, scoring a try. I think that was the final try or the semi-final try for the Bulls. But yeah, happy with the performance. Rated a good 75%, 75, 80%. And then, yeah, I think Keegan Johannes at this point looks settled there. But very excited because we're getting our Springboks back. So, yeah, I think midfield will look exciting. And then also, having that Willie Handré link also will make a big difference.
Yeah, excellent. Look, you get your results. They're going on tour now. Andre Pollard's been selected into the touring squad, so he's going to stay in Europe. Will Ackerman pick him immediately? Ackerman said he'll decide. So that's interesting. We haven't seen Goosen at all. I need to look at the touring squad to see if Goosen's in the mix. So having Keegan Johannes, who's like a French Frederic Michalak 9/10, and was developed quite well. In the mix, along with Pollard, along with Goosen, in a sort of marathon season that's going to have EPCR games as well. It's good depth. Lisa B, Jean indicated that because he's such a big fan of Kobus Reinach and he now plays for the Stormers, that he will also make the Stormers his second team. Are the Bulls your second team?
Not a chance. No. I think I've made my feelings on the Bulls quite clear. The one thing I will say is, man, it's nice seeing Leroux actually, getting a little bit of form. That his try, was it Pendergast who was hunting him there, and he just, very nice. Also, I was happy to
No,
see
sorry, it was
Kriel.
Crawley. It was
Oh,
Crawley.
yeah, Crawley. Thanks. So yeah, also it was nice seeing Kriel do a bit better this week than last week. I thought he was much improved. And look, I want the South African teams to win, especially in Europe, even though I have my beef with the Bulls. I really think they are showing good promise under Ackerman. We have to give them time, but really, there's a lot to work with here. And once the Springboks are back, I also think I'm actually a little bit scared, but I won't say that too loudly.
We've got a good squad here. Now we move on swiftly to the final result of the South African teams this week. The Lions were in the fortunate position to go to Italy and tour there, but it didn't go so well for them. A Sunday kickoff, no less. Then, of course, his second loss of the tour, but he did get a losing bonus point. Cash van Rooyen out.
I bought that team. Yes, I think he should go. But no, I think for the most part, as much as I want to complain about the Lions, I think the Zebra really, really, their defense, especially on the breakdown, that's like where we kind of lost the match because what's this? The Lions have this way of playing. Since they like to play a very expensive, a very fast game, so they like where you get Nico Steyn and gets into Henku. Henku tries to break the line, and when Henku breaks the line, he's the only one that is there. I think that Zebra noticed that, and that's why they won a lot of turnovers because of that. Because once that one player breaks through, he's isolated alone because he never has follow-up defenders that are trying to help him. So I think that was like one of our weaknesses. But if I'm not blaming the coach, I'm blaming that kid. I don't know what's going on with that shirt. I think that's kind of like the main reason we are losing. Like every time I look at it, I can see Dorfontein, like Dorfontein, Hillbro, and like Bramford. Like that's the image I get every time I see that shirt. And I feel like it could be something. I think it's draining them. Like I don't know what is going on with that shirt, but
You
I'm
sound
blaming the
like
shirt.
a Leinster supporter. They're blaming all their losses on the yellow, the mellow yellow shirts.
Yeah, well, the yellow at the bottom with the white on top, yeah.
But
Temikosi, do you have any insight as to why the Lions do not have a front of shirt sponsor uh,
I
in the
think
URC?
Emirates pulled out and they were trying to find another sponsor, but they didn't get one in time, and I don't think they're gonna get one because I thought they were gonna use the Fidelity one where they used it from the Kerry Cup, but clearly that didn't go through. So I'm thinking that they're looking for something else.
Yeah, because the one in the Curry Cup did look solid, so I just assumed that they were going to go through with the same
Yep.
thing. The reality is that the Lions had a solid team, so they don't really have excuses of like, oh, all these guys. Only Mone van der Berg, who's going to come right back into the team now, definitely will play. There's not that Nico Steyn played poorly, it's just that the quality of Mone van der Berg is obviously there, and obviously he's chomping at the bit to get stuck into actually playing rugby, having just trained for the last 3 weeks. But at the same time, when I looked at the Lions depth chart going into the season, the intelligent recruitment they've done, getting Angelo Davids, getting Edwin Cater from the
Yeah.
Sharks, getting Shoblom from Griquas. Yes, Shoblom, we learned how to pronounce your very Scandinavian surname. It took us a couple of episodes, but we got there. They should still have at least gotten something from this game.
It's the shirt.
Yeah, it's like
It's
it's
the
the
shirt.
shirt. It's
Like
the shirt.
it's the
It's the
shirt.
shirt.
Like
I mean,
on paper they
although
should be fine. It's the
Although I
shirt.
don't know what you guys are thinking getting Etienne Oosthuizen. Etienne Oosthuizen played for the Sharks, right? He played for the Lions, then he played for the Sharks years ago. The last time I saw Etienne Oosthuizen in person was at the Wellington Stadium. We were playing Boland in 2016. We were playing Boland in the Currie Cup. It was an away game for the Sharks. So the Shark Supporters Club, we all drove to Newlands, got in shuttle, and then we got shuttled to Wellington. I saw Etienne Oosthuizen that time. He's incredibly tall. He's insanely tall. Those people look like people average age will look short on a rugby field because they're standing next to locks. For example, I saw Tricus du Plessis the other day at a conference. The MMA fighter, and he's like slightly taller than me, but I thought he was going to be like massively tall, and he's not even that big. I don't understand why Tricus was wearing such tight pants, but that's his own story. I digress. But Etienne Oosthuizen comes back to the Lions last year, not at the start of the season, but he sort of filters in, and I see him on TV, and they didn't make a big deal of the fact that he came back to South Africa from France, and he was wildly out of shape because I saw him in person years ago, and he was like he was what you would think an athlete looked like, incredibly lean, low body fat percentage, everything. So maybe that's what's hamstringing the Lions. Rowan Delport made a mistake in the Currie Cup. I'm glad to see he started another game and played the whole game. Is a solid player. Renzo Du Plessis actually started Thembinkosi. Ruan Venter is the most people talk about, and myself included, people talk about Ben Jason Dixon at Lisa B Stormers, Vincent Tutuka at the Sharks, Bas, who can also play lock, as being Peter Steph du Toit successors possibly. But Ruan Venter is a bliksemsgoed player. Uh, yeah, then because you had the depth, what are your thoughts? Why it didn't pan out?
Oh, by the way, before we just move past, shout out to Renzo Duplessis because he's from Sanin. I'm currently in Sanin. Apparently, he was in the same grade as my little brother, and they're like the same age group. So, shout out to Renzo while I'm here in Sanin. But I think I don't know. On For me, I think they play very well. Everything is fine. What what I noticed, especially during this game, is they isolate themselves too much, and when it's not that, they try to overplay. So you see them trying like a lot of moves or trying to play that fast, and they eventually just lose the ball. I feel like the Lions' biggest weakness is themselves because sometimes they just like overdo things and they put themselves in situations where they can't recover. So I don't think it's a talent thing. I really think it's like a coaching thing. Like there is just something wrong with they don't know when to stop or when to just calm down. They just always playing fast, 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 fast. And that sometimes they just run out and just get tired. I feel like that's their biggest problem.
Yeah. So
And
let's look ahead then to what they can do next week. Hopefully put these defeats behind them. We start off as per usual. Stormers only play on Friday nights, by the way. But this week they've changed the venue. How nice of them. They're playing at Parky Scarlets in Wales. Lisa B, we're recording on Tuesday night, so we don't have squads. However, what are your feelings on this game?
Look, if we want to set ourselves up for a relatively good tour, we are going to have to take what we have done right in at home. We have to take it there. Luckily, it is the Scarlet, so it's not like a Glasgow or something like that that we start off with. I I don't think we'll have, even though I know I think all the Boks are just staying in Europe and waiting for their franchise teams. It's going to be, I don't think they are going to play yet. Maybe Gaza, but I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, as a start to the overseas tours, I'm happy to start here. We will see. I'm still picking Stormers to win, but it's really yeah, it's up there to see how we go in Europe.
This is the best of the four Welsh teams, and it is in Wales, so it should be a challenging game. But I don't write the Stormers off entirely. I'll have to see the squads later. Um, Jean, if Cobus Reinach doesn't start for the Stormers, are you going to be upset?
Uh, I wouldn't necessarily be upset, but I
Hmm.
do think it would be akin to having a very nice, authentic samurai sword and then not taking it with you when you get invited to the Japanese embassy's sword comparing party. He has played in Europe a lot. He's got experience there. He's used to the conditions. He's probably the most experienced backline player in terms of the Stormers, who they can bring on having played, north, south, east, west, everywhere the sun shines. So I think, I wouldn't be upset, but for me, it's a no-brainer. But then you could also say save him for your quarterfinals. Keep him in the bank for when you really need him. So yeah, I'd be a little disappointed.
Mm.
I mean, how long we
Uh,
have to wait to see him in that swirly curly shirt?
you got a prediction?
Prediction would be Stormers by between 5 and 10.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll see. The Stormers didn't have a lot of players with the Springbok squad, so we'll see which of them they pull in. I think yeah, you mentioned it on the URC Rewind. Shout out to URC Rewind, the Interpro show, the Wall Street Journal, and the Women's Rugby Trias, all on this YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. So we'll see which players they actually. I hope the Stormers win, but I think it's going to be a tough game for them. Hopefully, the Storm has gone away and we can get more of a fun game. That might be a factor. Demikosi, quickly, Stormers by 5. What you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Actually, I think Stormers don't really travel well.
Mm.
Yeah, the last cover they also did not play well. So I'm gonna give it to the Scarlets by 6.
Yeah, I think you're going with your
How
brain, and the
dare
rest of us are
you?
going with our hearts. Um, All right, Demikosi, your team continues their sojourn in sunny, beautiful Italy. Benetton, um, score prediction?
Since we're gonna have all our Springboks back, and by that I just mean one player. Um, I I was gonna say that we're gonna win, but after Benetton won against Glasgow last week, I mean this past weekend, it's gonna be a tough game, and we already lost to Zebre, so it would be really disappointing to lose to two Italian teams in a row. It would be really pathetic, to be honest. But this time I'm gonna go with the heart and say Lions by 5.
Yeah. Lisa B, you got a prediction?
Yeah, look, Benetton really showed some class this weekend, and well, Timbo Nkosi isn't very optimistic about my Stormers, so I'm going to say I'm not optimistic about Lions. I'm sorry, but that first half this weekend, just I don't know, they need a little bit more what they showed in the beginning of the Currie Cup, I feel. But I'm going to go with Benetton, not by a lot, but yeah, I think Benetton will pip them.
Jean, is it Joburg or Milan for you?
Um, I don't know. I feel like going for a draw. Um, yeah, no, I think Benetton's going to be too much. Italian rugby is definitely on a slight incline. And they've recently showed, I think, having played us in the summer and even in the Six Nations over the past 2 years, they've showed a tendency to not shy away from the forward battles. So I think for the South African teams, it's definitely a wake up. That you can't just say, "Ooh, we're big guys. We like running into other people." That will keep the ball safe. So I just don't know. For me, the problems at the Lions are they're too predictable. Like Dembi and Corsi said, and I think he hit the nail on the head. They're baitable. You give them that space, someone's going to run into it, and then when you tackle him, you just need to show hands and you're over the ball. And that kills your attack, your momentum, all that energy is wasted. Suddenly you're marching back. Yeah, I don't know. I think Benetton might just put on a bit of a masterclass this week and show us what they can really do. It's all early days, and these teams will know the longer the season gets, the deadlier everyone's going to become. So, you need to lock in the wins while you've got the chance.
Yeah, to be fair, if I remember correctly, Benetton did lose to Connacht in the first game, in round one, but that was away to Connacht in Galway, and it's a very revitalized Connacht team with Lancaster having taken over. So we have to also factor that in. Um, the thing I wanted to mention about the Stormers, though, is that Cobus Reinach is actually 35 years old. Wow, really looking after himself. And they they played in the prior game against Ospreys. They played Devo Devanacher, which I keep mentioning. End of last season, he said he was retiring, and then he coached in the Currie Cup, and he's playing really well. Devo Devanacher was his 100th game for the Stormers, so shout out to him. So he started the game, and it wasn't ceremonial. He played well into the second half, and Stefan Angra, another sort of veteran player, maybe not as old as Devo Devanacher, but also so Stormers good depth and quality at scrum half. Kobus Reinach, Deva Devanacher, Stefan Angra, all sort of older players, as well as a bunch of super young players that show a lot of promise, like uh, the guy who can play the Ngobeni, Ezekiel Ngobeni, who can play scrum half and wing really well. Ezekiel Ngobeni, Stellenbosch University captain. So Matis. Um, all right. So that's the Lions game. The next game is Sharks, Leinster. You notice that pause there. Temikosi,
If you don't
who
say
you
it, it
got?
won't happen.
Oh,
I don't know.
oh, my long national nightmare continues.
I
Who you
don't
got,
know.
Temikosi? The
Sharks.
British and Irish Lions or the Sharks B team?
Look, Sharks, their brand right now is that they want to be like a championship team, right? They are not necessarily, they're not aiming for the URC, they're aiming for like the Champions Cup and all the Challengers Cup. So I think these are the type of matches that they should be winning if they want to win such tournaments. Now, will they win this match? I don't think so.
Yeah,
But
it's like if we had all our frontline players Springboks and we was playing Leinster in Dublin at the Aviva, um, we'd have a better shot. It also depends on what players Leinster can pull out, because remember, um, they're not playing the British and Irish Lions for the first two games of this URC, and those are done now. Um, but they're not necessarily going to bring in all their Lions. The speculation is that it's only going to be like a few of them, not all 14 of them. So it's not exactly strength versus strength. It's really like a mix of a team and mix of a team. Because remember, as I mentioned earlier, we do have Ethan Hooker and Makazole Mampimpi back. Makazole Mampimpi, another guy, well into his mid 30s, but just a natural athlete, incredible um, condition for somebody of that age at a professional level. Um,
but if you're
least,
saying that, right? If you're saying that if Makazole Mapipi is going to be back and
mm,
Ethan Hooper is going to be back, so you're going to have Julius, you're going to have Lucanio Arm, you're going to have
mm,
Edward Minerva, you're going to have Mapimpi, and you're going to have Hooker.
yeah.
That's
The thing
pretty.
is
That's a
that
pretty strong backline.
forwards decide who win games most of the time. So yeah, I hope we win. Um, Lisa B, who did you pick on your Super Brew? Please say the Sharks.
I don't have
No.
Super Brew. I don't. I no. I spend way too much time if I get involved in fantasy leagues, and it doesn't turn out well for my focus on other parts of my life. Um, the one thing I will say for the British and Irish Lions, that it will be their first game back if whoever they are playing from there. So I think that's maybe a little bit of an advantage to the Sharks. They will be coming in uh, relatively cold, so to say. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go Leinster. I'm sorry, but
Mm.
I'm hoping Sharks.
Yeah, I was just kidding. Um, Look, it's just the reality of the situation. We've joked about some of our viewers sort of making sports bets on these types of things. Don't bet on the Sharks. Um, John, what score do you got?
Um, I have a feeling that all of us are putting Leinster up on a bit of a pedestal here. Um, and I don't think it's going to be an out and out win. Let's call it Sharks by 3. And I think if Jaden Hendrickse and depending who plays 10 can get the ball in the air and you've got Mapimpi van der Merwe and Hooker competing. Those three guys, yeah. Um, I don't know. It also depends. If Esterhuizen is playing, I would pick Esterhuizen and Julius as my first line centers. Um, Esterhuizen just for simply being a tank with the speed of a winger, and Julius for the magic. But yeah, I think if the cards are played right by the coaching staff, we could see a first victory. But I'm squinting here. I'm just trying
Yeah, I
to
would have.
give you guys hope.
Yeah, I would have loved Andres doesn't play, but there are sort of player race protocols and stuff. So
Yeah.
he is in Dubai right now. Some of the other people, I don't follow him on Instagram, but some of the other people on Reddit indicated that his social media showed that he was. Another interesting thing about these tours, by the way, because the Lions are on tour, the Bulls are on tour, and the Sharks are on tour. Well, all four teams are in Europe. Is that I got some feedback from some professional players saying that in the URC this season, the players get told, or at least the some of the teams that I don't know if this is across all the teams, but the teams of the players that I've spoken to said that the first 15 are in first class, and then the rest of the squad are in premium economy. So that's an indication of previous seasons. It was just premium economy and or sort of economy, which is not ideal if you are 2 meters tall and weigh 125 kilograms. The last game on this South African tour of Europe, it's Euro trip. It's legit the Euro trip week. Bulls take on Ulster, revived Ulster, who didn't play last week because of the storm. So going to be interesting how that affects them. Bulls get Andre Pollard back. Will they use him? What other players have they gotten back? Rowan O'Keefe, we'd have to see. Jean, what are your thoughts going into this game?
I'm thinking don't tread on sleeping Ulsterman. Be careful. Um, if I put myself in Ackerman's shoes, you know, keep Johannes as starting 10, Pollard on the bench, Willie on the bench. Take the points early and definitely try and box them up front. If I think that's where you have to put your foot down. It's not going to be easy. They've got the likes of Joarno Augustus there, or Trocchi. I don't know if he's going to be playing because obviously it's Tuesday night. Um, I feel I feel like the Bulls can do it. And for the sake of pride, I'm going to say they will do it. Um, let's say Bulls by 10 to 12. Um, but it's definitely going to be a grind. I think Ulster being, as you said, sort of a revived team. They've got some important signings coming back, and they probably have a bit more match fitness than the British and Irish Lions coming back from rest. So, this could also, for them, the timing could be well, having missed the previous week's match, roll over. They've only done fitness sessions, lack of injuries. They get to pick a first-rate team. They've essentially had a bye weekend. So recovery and those things would have happened, and extra time spent studying the Bulls and things like that. Um, so yeah, I'd say Bulls by 10 to 12. That's going to be my Super Brew pick. But be wary of sleeping Ulsterman.
Yeah, should be a really fun game. All In fact, yeah, all the South African games are on tour generally quite exciting because there's a degree of jeopardy, and it's great when we pull off a win when we're well and truly underdogs. Then, because what's your prediction? Ulster versus Bulls?
I'm thinking I'm gonna go with the Bulls on this one. I like the last two games. I think per game they scored like 6 tries each. So yeah, the defense is optional, but it seems like it doesn't matter if you can just outscore the opponent. So I think if they're gonna go with that mentality there, and some of the Springboks are coming back, we just don't know who's gonna start. But I generally think that the Bulls are slightly, or not slightly, they should be stronger than Ulster, and they should be really, really better. So I'm gonna go with like John and say like Bulls by 10.
It's tough to pick really because it's a very evenly poised game, and which makes it incredibly exciting. Hopefully, I can watch it live. If not, I will catch a replay. Lisa B, finally, your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, this is my 50-50 for the weekend. Lions was last weekend. So, I mean, you guys have covered it. It's really difficult to call. Jean, you were talking about tanks, and Mohammed Thomas the Tank possibly coming to Sharks is the news that I saw. So just made me think of that. 50-50 for me.
We might get Thomas du Toit back at the end of the season, so great to see him. Again, another guy who I last saw in Boland. Thomas du Toit is incredibly wide. Wow, he's a big guy. He's so much taller than you think he is, if you think of props as being short. So yeah, I really look forward to this final game. Before we move on, an interesting thing considering that the Springboks are taking a break now, that we look forward to the World Cup in 2027. And the reason why we're touching on this right now is because the fact that the World Cup is going to be slightly different. There will be now 24 teams as opposed to the 20-team format before. And the structure of it will also change slightly. Historically, it was 4 pools of 5, and now it's going to be 6 pools of 4. And that will it's like there's a newly included round of 16, so another knockout stage. Jean, how do you think this will affect teams' preparation for a World Cup?
Yeah, I think by accident or by simply Rassie being Rassie, we've sort of been preparing for this. Rassie favors a big squad. We typically see a 35-player squad being taken to a World Cup. I don't know if they're going to relax the rules because I know Rassie always takes the maximum, which is 35. So they might relax the rules and say, yeah, you can bring a 40-player team because you have to consider now it sort of is an extra match, but it's also not an extra match. But you have to be a lot more versatile and a bit more prepared. Because the format is it's a bit tricky to understand, but you're not playing an additional match should you make it to the final. You're still only going to play 7 matches. So it all balances out. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. You're going to have to be the format and the draw of the format, I think, is going to have a bigger impact than what we previously saw in terms of determining, from the round of 16, which means now essentially you have 4 knockout games that you need to win instead of 3. So Rassie needs to pick very carefully which game he wants to lose this particular World Cup because his choice options is down from 4 to 3. So I think it adds an element to it. I think it's going to be exciting and definitely good for rugby. It should show us a lot more of the smaller teams playing rugby and give them good experience to grow with.
Yeah, nations that aren't necessarily thought of as rugby. So yeah, I'm really glad that they've expanded it. There are some teams who missed out over the last few years. Just so, yeah. On that note, it's been a bumper episode. We've got the full bomb squad. From myself, Thembi Nkosi, Lisa B, and Jean. Until next time, in Rassie, we trust.
Thank you for listening to A Bit of an Animal. Please like, rate and subscribe wherever you see us, and join us again next week for more of the same. Until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.